Ben Torres walked through the metal corridors of Kepler's Rest with his usual quiet steps. The trade station hummed around him, filled with voices from a dozen different species. Vulcans argued loudly about shipping routes. Corvan merchants haggled over prices. Thurian engineers debated technical problems with their hands waving in the air. But Ben said nothing. He never did. He carried a small watering container in his hands, moving toward the botanical section where he worked every day. His human features looked plain next to the colorful aliens around him. Brown hair, brown eyes, average height. Nothing special about him at all. "There goes the Silent One," whispered a young Vulcan warrior to his friend. "I still cannot believe Zira married that human." Ben heard the words but kept walking. He had heard similar things many times before. The botanical section was Ben's world. Here, among the growing plants from 50 different worlds, he found peace. He tended to earthly tomatoes next to Vulcan fireflowers. Corvan moss grew alongside Thurian crystal trees. Each plant needed different care, different attention. Ben gave them all exactly what they needed. He was checking the soil moisture of a small earth rose when footsteps approached. Ben looked up to see his wife, Zira, walking toward him. She stood 2 meters tall, her blue-gray skin marked with the traditional warrior scars of her people. Her golden eyes held warmth when she looked at him. "Good morning, husband," Zira said in her deep voice. "Morning," Ben replied quietly, giving her a small smile. Zira sat on a nearby bench, her large frame making it creak slightly. "The council meets today about the pirate reports. Captain Rex thinks they might try to attack smaller stations like ours." Ben nodded, continuing his work with the plants. "The children's evacuation routes are still clear?" "Yes. You checked them yourself last week." Zira watched her husband's gentle hands as he worked. "Do you worry?" "Always worry about the innocent ones," Ben said simply. This was how their conversations went. Ben spoke little, but his words always carried meaning. Zira had learned to understand him through his actions more than his voice. She had seen him spend hours teaching young aliens how to grow food plants. She had watched him quietly fix broken equipment without being asked. She had noticed how he always positioned himself between danger and those who could not protect themselves. Other Vulcans did not understand her choice. Vulcans valued strength, loud voices, bold actions. Ben showed none of these things. To them, he seemed weak. "Zira," called another voice. Commander Kell approached, his warrior decorations shining on his armor. "The morning briefing starts soon." Zira stood. "I will be there." Kell glanced at Ben, who continued working with his plants. "Your human stays busy with his flowers." "His work feeds the station," Zira replied firmly. "Of course," Kell said, but his tone suggested he thought little of farming compared to fighting. After they left, Ben continued his routine. He moved through the gardens, checking each section. The hydroponics systems hummed quietly. Growth lights cast warm colors over the green spaces. This place felt more like home to him than anywhere else on the station. A group of young aliens played nearby in the common area next to the gardens. 3 Vulcan children practiced fighting moves while 2 small Thurians built something with metal pieces. A human girl named Anna, maybe 8 years old, watched the others play. "Uncle Ben." Anna called out, running to him. Her parents worked in the station's communications center. "Hello, Anna," Ben said, kneeling down to her level. "Can you show us how earth flowers grow again?" Ben smiled and led her to a section where earth daisies bloomed in neat rows. "See how they turn toward the light. They always know which way the sun is, even in space." Anna nodded seriously. "They're smart flowers." "Very smart," Ben agreed. The other children gathered around as Ben explained how different plants grew on Earth. He spoke more to the children than to most adults. They listened without judging him for being quiet. They did not expect him to be loud or aggressive. "My father says humans are weak," said one of the Velkin boys suddenly. The other children looked uncomfortable. Anna frowned at the boy. Ben continued working with the flowers. "What do you think makes someone strong?" "Fighting. Being loud. Winning battles," the boy said proudly. "Maybe," Ben said calmly. "Or maybe taking care of things that cannot take care of themselves. Maybe being quiet when others need to be heard. Maybe choosing kindness when anger would be easier." The boy looked confused, but Anna nodded. "Like when you helped Mr. Vex fix his shop after the accident." Ben just smiled and returned to his work. The day continued peacefully. Ben finished his plant care and helped in the station's food preparation area. He worked alongside aliens from many worlds, always quiet, always helpful. When equipment broke, he fixed it without being asked. When someone needed a hand carrying supplies, he appeared to help. But others saw only his silence. "I heard the council is worried about pirates," said Chef Mira, a Corvan female with 4 arms that made food preparation much easier. "The defense force will handle any problems," replied Vel, a Thurian engineer. "Easy to say when you have warriors like Commander Kel and Zira," Mira said. "Though I wonder what Ben would do if trouble came." Vel laughed. "Hide with the children, probably. Humans are not warriors." Ben, washing dishes nearby, said nothing. The afternoon brought news. Captain Rex announced over the station communication system that long-range sensors had detected unknown ships approaching. All civilians should prepare for possible evacuation. Ben immediately went to check the emergency routes from the children's areas. He walked through the school section, the play areas, and the family quarters. Everything looked clear and ready. Zira found him in the main corridor near the botanical section. "The ships are definitely pirates," she said. 3 vessels, heavily armed. They demand we surrender our cargo and supplies." "The children?" Ben asked. "Evacuation plan is ready. But our defense force will fight first." Zira's golden eyes showed determination. "Captain Rex refuses to give in to pirates." Ben nodded. "I will make sure the evacuation routes stay clear." Zira placed a large hand on his shoulder. "You do not have to prove anything to anyone, husband. Taking care of the civilians is important work." "I know," Ben said quietly. Alert sirens began to sound throughout the station. The pirate ships had arrived. Through the next hour, Ben helped coordinate civilian movement. Families gathered their important belongings and moved toward the secure sections of the station. The elderly needed assistance walking. Parents carried small children. Everyone stayed as calm as possible, but fear showed in their eyes. Ben moved among them like a quiet shadow, appearing wherever help was needed. He carried an elderly Thurian who could not walk quickly. He helped a Velkin mother gather her scattered children. He made sure no one was left behind. The sounds of battle reached them through the station's walls. Energy weapons fired. Metal struck metal. The lights flickered as power was redirected to defense systems. Uncle Ben, Anna appeared at his side, holding her parents' hands. "Are we safe?" "The warriors are protecting us," Ben said calmly. "And I will make sure you get to the safe areas." Anna nodded, trusting him completely. The civilians reached the secure section, but then new alarms began to sound. Different tones, more urgent. "Hull breach in Section C," announced the emergency system. "Defense force requires immediate support." A young Velkin warrior ran past, bleeding from a cut on his arm. They broke through. The pirates are inside. Fear spread through the civilian group. Parents held their children closer. The elderly looked around nervously. "Stay calm," Ben said, his voice carrying clearly through the group. "The secure doors are still locked. The warriors will handle this." But even as he spoke, sounds of fighting grew closer. Energy blasts echoed through the corridors. Someone screamed in the distance. "We need to move deeper into the station," Ben decided. "Follow me." He led the group through backup corridors toward the central core area. These passages were narrower, older, but they provided more protection. Ben knew every route on the station from his years of quiet exploration. They were halfway to safety when the lights went out. Emergency lighting cast red shadows on the walls. Children whimpered. Adults whispered nervously. "Keep moving," Ben said quietly. "Almost there." But as they turned the next corner, they found their path blocked. 3 pirates stood in the corridor ahead, weapons drawn. Behind them, Ben could see 4 more approaching from another direction. The pirates were corvins, larger and stronger than most species. Their leader wore armor decorated with stolen badges from other ships. His teeth showed in a cruel grin. "Well, what do we have here?" the leader said. "Civilians trying to run away." The group of families pressed closer together. Ben stepped forward, placing himself between the pirates and the civilians. "Let them pass," Ben said quietly. "They are not part of your fight." The pirate leader laughed. "A human telling us what to do. This gets better and better." He looked at Ben more closely. "You are that silent one, are you not? Married to the Vulcan warrior woman. I heard about you." Ben said nothing. "What will you do to stop us, silent human? Talk us to death?" The other pirates laughed. Behind Ben, the civilians waited in terror. Anna's small hand grabbed the edge of Ben's shirt. "Please," whispered Anna's mother. "We have children here." "Children make excellent hostages," the leader said. "Move aside, human, or we will move you aside." Ben looked back at the group behind him. Elderly aliens who could not run. Parents protecting their children. Young ones who trusted him to keep them safe. He turned back to face the pirates. "No," Ben said simply. The pirate leader's grin faded. "No. You will not touch them," Ben said, his voice still quiet but somehow different. "Harder. Find another path. Move, human." The leader raised his weapon. Ben stepped backward until his hand touched the wall. His fingers found something there, something he had noticed many times but never mentioned to anyone. An old maintenance tool hanging on a simple hook. Except it was not a maintenance tool at all. Ben's hand closed around the handle, and everything in the corridor went silent. The pirate stared as Ben slowly drew the object from the wall. It was a blade, long and straight, with a simple handle worn smooth by years of use. The metal caught the red emergency lights and reflected them like fire. Ben held the sword at his side, point toward the floor. His quiet brown eyes met the pirate leader's gaze. "Last chance," Ben said softly. "Walk away." The corridor held its breath, waiting to see what the silent human would do next. The pirate leader stared at the blade in Ben's hand. The weapon looked ancient, its surface marked with tiny scratches from years of use. But the edge gleamed sharp and ready. "A sword?" The leader laughed, but his voice carried less confidence than before. "What century do you think this is, human?" Ben said nothing. He simply shifted his stance, the blade moving to a ready position. His body changed, becoming balanced and focused. The quiet gardener had transformed into something else entirely. "Boss," whispered one of the other pirates. "Maybe we should." "Shut up," the leader snapped. "It is just one human with an old knife." The pirates behind them raised their energy weapons. 7 armed enemies against 1 man with a sword. The civilians pressed closer to the walls, trying to stay out of the way. Anna's mother pulled her daughter back, but the little girl watched Ben with wide eyes. She had seen him tend plants with gentle hands. She had watched him help everyone who needed it. But this was different. This was someone she had never seen before. The pirate leader aimed his weapon at Ben. "Last warning, human. Move or die." Ben's response came not in words but in motion. He moved like water flowing around stones. One moment he stood still, the next he was among the pirates, his blade singing through the air. The leader's weapon fired, but Ben was no longer where the shot had been aimed. The sword moved in a perfect arc. The leader's weapon fell to the floor in 2 pieces, cut cleanly through the middle. The pirate stared at his empty hands in shock. Ben spun, his blade deflecting energy bolts from the other pirates with impossible precision. Each shot that came toward the civilians was turned aside. Sparks flew as energy met metal, but the sword never stopped moving. The second pirate tried to grab Ben from behind, but Ben ducked low and swept his leg, sending the much larger alien crashing into the wall. The blade followed in a controlled strike that left the pirate unconscious but alive. "How is he doing that?" gasped one of the civilians. Ben moved between the remaining pirates like he was dancing. Every step had purpose. Every movement flowed into the next. The sword became part of him, an extension of his will. A third pirate fired directly at a group of Vulcan children. Ben appeared in front of the blast, his blade catching the energy and sending it harmlessly into the ceiling. Without pausing, he struck the pirate's weapon from his hands and knocked him down with the flat of his sword. The corridor filled with the sound of combat, but it was not chaotic. Ben's movements created their own rhythm. Step, turn, strike, defend. The blade hummed through the air, never wasted, never rushed. 4 pirates down. 3 remaining, but they had stopped attacking. They backed away, fear replacing their earlier confidence. "What are you?" the leader whispered. Ben stood in the center of the corridor, sword held ready, breathing calm and steady. Around him lay the unconscious forms of the pirates he had defeated. Not one had been seriously hurt, but all were completely unable to continue fighting. "Someone who protects the innocent," Ben said quietly. The remaining pirates looked at each other. Their leader was disarmed. Their strongest fighters were down. The quiet human with the impossible sword stood between them and their targets. "Run," the leader said to his remaining crew. "Run now." They ran. Ben watched them disappear around a corner, then slowly lowered his sword. The blade went back to its place on the wall as if nothing had happened. He turned to face the civilians, who stared at him in complete silence. "The path is clear now," Ben said calmly. "We should reach the safe area." For a moment, nobody moved. Then Anna broke away from her mother and ran to Ben. "Uncle Ben, that was amazing," she said, grabbing his hand. The spell broke. The group began moving again, but everything had changed. They no longer saw a quiet gardener who helped with simple tasks. They saw someone who had just defeated 7 armed pirates with nothing but an old sword. As they walked, whispers followed Ben through the group. "Did you see how fast he moved? Where did that sword come from? I never knew humans could fight like that." Ben said nothing. He led them through the corridors, checking each turn, making sure the way stayed clear. But now others watched him with new eyes. They reached the central safe area where other civilians had gathered. Captain Rex stood at a command station, coordinating the defense. His face showed surprise when he saw Ben leading the group. "I thought you were trapped in Section C," Rex said. "Pirates blocked our path," Ben replied simply. "They changed their minds." "Changed their minds?" Rex looked confused. Anna spoke up before Ben could answer. "Uncle Ben had a sword. He defeated all the bad guys and saved everyone." The captain's expression grew even more confused. Around them, other civilians began talking excitedly about what they had witnessed. Word spread quickly through the safe area. Zira appeared at Ben's side, her armor scorched from battle. "Husband. What happened?" "Help some people get to safety," Ben said. Zira studied his face carefully. She knew him well enough to sense that something important had occurred, but Ben's expression remained calm and peaceful. "The defense force has pushed back the main attack," she reported. "But some pirates got inside the station. We are hunting them down." "7 fewer to hunt," said Anna's father. Ben stopped a whole group of them. Zira's golden eyes widened slightly. "Ben." "They were threatening the children," Ben explained quietly. Before Zira could ask more questions, Commander Kell approached. His armor showed signs of heavy fighting, and his expression was grim. "Rex, we have a problem," Kell announced. "The pirate leader, Dex Corvin, has taken hostages in the main cargo bay. He wants safe passage off the station or he will start executing civilians." Silence fell over the command area. Captain Rex studied tactical displays showing the cargo bay layout. "How many hostages?" Rex asked. 12. Mixed species, including station engineer Vorth and his whole family. Rex shook his head. "Dex is smart. The cargo bay has only one entrance, and he has heavy weapons. We cannot storm it without losing hostages." "What about negotiation?" suggested Zira. "He already refused. Says he knows we will just hunt him down anyway." Kell looked around the group. "We need options." Ben studied the tactical display quietly. The cargo bay was indeed well defended from the front. But he remembered his years exploring the station's maintenance areas. "There is another way in," Ben said softly. Everyone turned to look at him. "What?" Rex asked. "Maintenance shaft. Runs along the cargo bay ceiling. Old route from when they built the station." Kell frowned. "Those shafts are too narrow for armored troops." "Not for one person," Ben said. The command group fell silent as they realized what he was suggesting. "Absolutely not," Zira said immediately. "Ben, that is too dangerous." "Someone has to try," Ben replied. "Dex will start hurting people soon." Captain Rex looked at the tactical display again. "Even if you could get inside, Dex has professional soldiers with him. You are a civilian." Several of the rescued civilians exchanged glances. Anna's father stepped forward. "Captain, you should know what happened in the corridor," he said. "Ben is not exactly what he appears to be." Over the next few minutes, the witnesses described the fight with the pirates. 7 armed enemies defeated by 1 man with a sword. Impossible speed and precision. Combat skills that belonged in legends, not gardens. Rex and Kell listened with growing amazement. "This is true?" Rex asked Zira. "Ben has never lied to me," Zira said slowly. "But he has never told me everything either." All eyes turned to Ben, who looked uncomfortable with the attention. "I used to be a soldier," he said finally. "Long time ago. Before I came here." "What kind of soldier fights with a sword?" Kell demanded. Ben was quiet for a long moment. Then Zira placed her hand on his shoulder. "Tell them, husband. People are in danger." Ben sighed. Earth Defense Corps. Special Operations. We called it Silent Blade Training. He paused. Most energy weapons have predictable patterns. Swords do not. Sometimes old ways work better than new ones. How many others have this training? Rex asked. 12 total graduated. Most are retired now. The command group stared at him. Silent Blade operatives were legendary among military circles. Soldiers who could defeat entire squads with nothing but ancient weapons and perfect skill. Ben, Rex said carefully, would you be willing to try the maintenance route? Ben looked at the display again. 12 innocent people trapped with a brutal pirate leader. Families with children, just like the group he had already saved. I will need my sword, he said. 20 minutes later, Ben crawled through a maintenance shaft barely wide enough for his shoulders. The metal tunnel ran along the cargo bay ceiling, exactly as he remembered. Through grating below, he could hear voices. Time is up. Dex's voice carried clearly. Tell your captain I want that ship fueled and ready, or I start shooting hostages. Ben found a grating that looked down into the cargo bay. Dex stood in the center with 11 armed pirates around him. The hostages sat against one wall, hands bound, fear clear on their faces. Engineer Vorth held his young son close, trying to shield him. Ben studied the layout carefully. The pirates had positioned themselves well for defending against frontal attack, but they had not considered threats from above. He removed the grating silently and lowered himself partway down, hanging by his hands. From here, he could drop into the middle of the group before they could react. Ben let go. He landed in perfect silence behind 3 pirates who were watching the main entrance. His sword appeared in his hand as if by magic. The first pirate went down without a sound. The second turned just in time to see Ben's blade coming toward him. The third managed to shout a warning before Ben's strike put him to sleep. Above, someone yelled. The cargo bay erupted in chaos. Pirates spun around, trying to find their attacker while protecting themselves from shots that might come from the entrance. But Ben was already moving. He flowed between them like smoke, the sword dancing in patterns that seemed impossible. Energy bolts filled the air, but Ben was never where they aimed. Pirates fell around him, defeated by precise strikes that left them unconscious but alive. Dex himself fired repeatedly at the moving shadow that had appeared among his crew, but Ben seemed to anticipate every shot. The sword deflected energy bolts that came too close to the hostages, protecting them even while attacking their captors. In less than 2 minutes, it was over. Ben stood in the center of the cargo bay, surrounded by unconscious pirates. His blade was clean, his breathing steady. Dex lay at his feet, disarmed and defeated. How? Dex whispered. How did one man do this? Ben looked down at him calmly. You threaten children. He moved to free the hostages while security forces rushed into the bay. Engineer Vorth stared at Ben as the ropes were cut from his hands. You are the quiet one from the gardens, Vorth said in amazement. The one who helped my daughter grow earth flowers. Still am, Ben replied simply. Word of the cargo bay rescue spread through the station like fire. The pirate attack was over, but everyone wanted to know about the human who had ended it with nothing but a sword. Ben returned to his botanical section as if nothing had happened. He went back to tending his plants, checking soil moisture, adjusting growth lights. But everything else had changed. Aliens who had ignored him before now watched him with respect. Species that had considered humans weak suddenly realized they understood nothing about human capabilities. Zira found him that evening, working quietly among the earth roses. The council wants to offer you a position in the defense force, she said. I like my plants, Ben replied, not looking up from his work. They want to know about your training. About Earth's military programs. Ben finally looked at her. I came here to leave that life behind. Found something better. What? Ben smiled, gesturing around at the growing things surrounding them. Peace. Purpose. You. Zira sat on the bench where they had talked that morning, though it felt like years ago now. The others see you differently, she said. I am still the same person. Are you? Ben considered this carefully. I am someone who protects what matters. Always was. Just found better things to protect here than I had in the war. A group of children appeared at the entrance to the botanical section. Anna led them forward, still excited from the day's events. Uncle Ben. Can you teach us about swords? She asked eagerly. I can teach you about growing things, Ben replied. Swords are for when words stop working. But you saved everyone. The warriors saved everyone. I just helped clear a path. Anna looked disappointed, but Ben knelt down to her level. Want to see something amazing? He asked. Her face brightened. Yes. Ben led the children to a new section he had been working on. There, earth sunflowers grew alongside Velkan fire blooms and durian crystal trees. Different species, different needs, but all thriving together. This is the most important thing I know, Ben said softly. Different does not mean enemy. Strange does not mean dangerous. And taking care of each other makes everyone stronger. The children gathered around, fascinated by the mixed garden. Even the quiet ones can be heroes? Anna asked. Ben smiled. Heroes come in all shapes. Some are loud, some are quiet. Some fight with swords, some fight by growing food. The important thing is caring about others more than yourself. As the children explored the garden, asking questions about plants from different worlds, Zira watched her husband with new understanding. He had always been a protector. She just had not realized how many different ways someone could protect others. The station settled into evening routine around them. In the corridors, aliens who had learned something important that day walked with changed perspectives. The quiet human in the gardens was still quiet, still gentle with his plants. But now they knew that silence could hide strength, and gentleness could coexist with deadly skill. Ben Torres returned to his roses, content to be exactly what he had always been, someone who took care of the things that needed protecting. The sword went back to its place on the wall, just another tool in a gardener's collection.